seemingly unimportant clause in a 1973 contract turned a young director into a billionaire and rewrote how Hollywood does business. Cinema is a cutthroat business that has undergone a constant cycle of evolution, not just technological, but also with storytelling techniques and themes. Long gone are the days of black and white silent movies. With the introduction of talkies, CGI, and seemingly unlimited budgets, cinema has become the juggernaut of the entertainment. Along its path of evolution, one business deal has become widely known as the greatest business deal of all time. And this simple piece of merchandising is a perfect example of it. But what is it, and what does it represent? Stick around to find out. I'm Justin Lowry from On The Square Emporium, and today we're delving into a story that is out of this world. Love antiques and their stories? Subscribe and hit that bell icon, so let's get into it. It's 1977, and you're a 10-year-old boy who loves to go to the cinema. Pete's Dragon, the newest Herbie movie, are released this year, but there's only one film that will change not only your life, but the life of its creator. After directing a film called American Graffiti in 1973, a relative newbie was backed by 20th Century Fox, who agreed to fund a space opera set in a world far, far away. That's right. Today we're talking about Star Wars. This is a Darth Vader telephone that was made by Telemania in the early 1990s. Although it is of its time as a landline telephone, this quite niche collectible still stands a testament as to how one man completely changed not only modern cinema themes, but also the industry as a whole. Fresh off the unexpected success of American Graffiti, Lucas had a wild idea for his next project. Inspired by the Flash Gordon series, samurai films like The Hidden Fortress and the classic hero's journey, laid out by Joseph Campbell, he envisaged a grand space opera, a galaxy filled with smugglers, princesses, farm boys, and an ancient mystical energy called the Force. But turning that vision into reality was no small feat. The studio didn't exactly jump at the idea of a sci-fi fairy tale. Science fiction back then was seen as a niche. But 20th Century Fox took a gamble, and Lucas got his green light, though not without some serious restrictions. Lucas and his newly formed team at Industrial Light and Magic basically had to invent modern visual effects from scratch. They pioneered techniques like motion control photography, literally strapping cameras to machines to capture complex model shots in ways no one had ever done before. Production was brutal. Filming in Tunisia was plagued by technical issues, sandstorms and malfunctioning droids. Crew members thought the movie was a joke, especially when they saw a towering man in a bear costume lumbering towards the set as Chewbacca. Lucas himself suffered from severe anxiety throughout the production, at one point even being hospitalized due to high blood pressure. And yet, through all the chaos, something magical was taking place. The characters like Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, and of course Darth Vader had presence. The world Lucas built was rich, real, and totally unlike anything audience had ever seen. It was a myth. It was an adventure. It was a childhood dream come to life. When Star Wars finally hit the theaters in May 1977, it didn't just succeed, it exploded.
The people in this crowd will soon be among almost 40,000 who have seen a new science fiction movie at North Park Cinema 2. The movie is called Star Wars, and since it opened here 9 days ago, capacity crowds have filled the 1,100 seats in the theater almost daily.
Lines wrapped around blocks. People watched it 5, 6, 7 times. In an instant, cinema was changed forever. But what it did for the movie business is mostly unheard of. Hello?
Hello! We're just calling to tell you about our amazing deals. Do you need a mouse on a tractor, the world's strongest chicken, a two-headed cow, or maybe something from our amazing cast iron section, or perhaps something from our stylish Hornsey range, your lovely Persian rug?
Right, that is. For awesome deals, check out onthesquareemporium.com.
The road to Star Wars domination didn't just happen on the big screen. It started behind closed doors with a deal that would go down as one of the smartest moves in Hollywood history. When he pitched his next project, a strange space adventure full of lasers and swords and talking robots and a villain in a black cape, most studios scratched their heads. 20th Century Fox, though, decided to take a chance. In 1973, Lucas negotiated an initial deal with Alan Ladd Jr., the head of Fox's film division, and one of the few true believers in Lucas's vision. The studio agreed to finance the production, but it was a gamble. Fox didn't think the film would make a massive hit. They expected to make maybe a little cult following, a few $1 million in ticket sales, and then on to the next project. Because of the low expectation, Lucas was able to make a bold request. He would waive the extra $500,000 directing fee in exchange for two things. First, full rights to any sequels. Second, and far more important, total ownership of the merchandise and licensing rights. Fox, thinking toys and t-shirts wouldn't amount to much, agreed. After all, at that time, film merchandising was seen as small potatoes. But no one expected kids wanted the action figures from a sci-fi movie that hadn't even been made yet. Fast forward to May 1977. Star Wars opens and it's a phenomenon. Not only did the film smash the box office records, making $775 million globally off an $11 million budget, but the real treasure was just beginning. Demand for Star Wars toys and memorabilia exploded almost overnight. Kenner, a small toy company, rushed to secure the license and produce the action figures, ships and play sets. In fact, the demand was so insane that for Christmas 1977, Kenner had to sell an early bird certificate, basically a promise that you'd get the toys months later when they finally were ready. By 1978, Star Wars merchandising sales topped 100 million, and that was just the beginning. Because Lucas had retained those rights, the profits flowed almost entirely back to him and Lucasfilm. The cash gave Lucas total creative independence moving forward, allowing him to self-finance The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi without needing the studio money or permission. Fox, for their part, still made a fortune from distribution. Their market value skyrocketed and Star Wars saved the studio from near bankruptcy. But they had given up billions in merchandising revenue that could have been theirs. By the early 1980s, Star Wars merchandise alone had generated over $2.5 billion in sales. Lucas was no longer just a filmmaker. He was a brand empire, not only shaping his future, but also the future of the entire film industry. When George Lucas signed away his Star Wars distribution deal in exchange for film merchandising rights, he wasn't just making a smart move himself, he was unknowingly setting off a chain reaction that would change Hollywood forever. Before Star Wars merchandise was considered a side hustle, at best, something studios barely paid attention to. Sure, there had been lunchboxes and novelty items for a few big films and TV shows, but nobody had treated merchandise as a core part of the film's financial strategy. Lucas flipped that idea on its head. When Star Wars toys, t-shirts, lunchboxes, posters started flying off the shelves faster than they could be made, the rest of the industry snapped to attention. Suddenly, Hollywood realized a movie wasn't just a movie anymore. It was a brand. It was an empire. And if you played your cards right, you could make just as much money, if not more, selling plastic figures and branded backpacks as you did selling theater tickets. In the years that followed, every major studio tried to replicate the Lucas model. Films weren't just greenlit because they were good stories anymore. They were greenlit because they had merchandising potential. Would the characters sell action figures? Could they be slapped onto cereal boxes? Would kids beg their parents for Halloween costumes based on them? By the 1980s, merchandising became baked into DNA of the big-budget filmmaking. You saw it in Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters, Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and later Disney's renaissance with films like The Little Mermaid and The Lion King. Merchandising profits became just as important, sometimes more important than the box office sales themselves. It didn't stop with toys either. Lucas' approach inspired theme parks, video games, spin-offs, novelizations, a full-blown ecosystem built around a single-story universe. Fast forward to today and you'll see Lucas's fingerprints everywhere. Marvel's cinematic universe built for merch. Harry Potter's Wizarding World, a merchandising machine. Even Pixar and modern Disney films are designed with merchandise-friendly characters from the very beginning. Think about how the first Baby Yoda merchandise hit the stores after The Mandalorian launched. Lucas didn't just pioneer a successful film, he rewrote the rules for what success looks like. And the craziest part? When he first made the deal, the studio didn't fight him on it. They practically handed it over, thinking it wasn't worth the paperwork. By the time they realized the mistake, Lucas had built a fortune and secured himself full creative control over his future projects, something most filmmakers can only dream of. So next time you walk through a store packed with superhero toys, branded pajamas, and collectible mugs, remember, it all traces back to one scrappy filmmaker, a galaxy far, far away, and the smartest business deal Hollywood had ever seen.